Halifax sits on Canada's Atlantic coast at roughly 44.6 degrees north, a position that shapes everything from its fog patterns to its port history. It is the capital of Nova Scotia and the most populous municipality in all of Atlantic Canada, with a population estimated at around 500,000 as of recent municipal estimates. That scale puts it in an interesting middle ground. Large enough to support real infrastructure, small enough that you can understand the city's layout within a day or two of arrival. The city is officially called the Halifax Regional Municipality, a designation that dates to 1996 when 4 formerly separate municipalities, Halifax, Dartmouth, Bedford, and Halifax County, were amalgamated into a single administrative unit. That merger explains why the HRM covers such a broad geographic footprint, taking in waterfront neighborhoods like Woodside and downtown Dartmouth alongside suburban areas like Portland Estates, Portland Hills, Dartmouth Crossing, and Russell Lake West. The urban core and the sprawling surroundings feel like different worlds, and most visitors spend the majority of their time in the original Halifax downtown and along the harbor. Halifax works best for travelers drawn to maritime history, seafood-forward dining, and walkable waterfront access without the density or cost of a major metro. It supports weekend breaks, East Coast road trips, and history-focused itineraries well. With around 70 landmarks cataloged across the municipality, 38 restaurants, and 19 hotels worth noting, the options are curated rather than overwhelming. The weaknesses are real and worth naming up front. Direct international flight connections are limited, so most visitors route through Toronto or Montreal. Outside of summer, the weather runs cold and frequently foggy, which is part of Halifax's character, but can be a surprise if you arrive expecting something milder. The hotel and restaurant counts are modest compared to any major Canadian metro, so peak season availability requires planning ahead. Compared to other Atlantic Canadian destinations, Halifax offers more cultural depth than St. John and a stronger transit infrastructure than Charlottetown. The dining variety is broader, the live music and art scene is more developed, and the harbor itself gives the city a focal point that holds up across multiple days. For travelers weighing where to anchor an Atlantic Canada trip, Halifax tends to earn its place as the primary base rather than a secondary stop. Getting to Halifax means flying into Halifax Stanfield International Airport, code YHZ, located about 35 kilometers north of the downtown waterfront. Drive time from the airport to the core runs roughly 30 to 40 minutes depending on traffic, and the airport sits close enough that you won't feel stranded on arrival. Round-trip flights from major U.S. cities typically run $319 to $600, with most routes from Atlanta, New York, Miami, Dallas, and Los Angeles landing in that range. Chicago tends to sit closer to the $450 to $500 mark. As of this recording, those figures represent reasonable planning anchors for economy travel, though peak summer and holiday windows will push prices toward the higher end of the range. From the airport into downtown, taxis and rideshares are the practical option. Taxis start at around $5.40 with a per-kilometer rate of approximately $1.82. So the airport run to the waterfront area will typically land somewhere in the $45 to $60 range, depending on your exact destination and traffic. There is no rail link between the airport and the city center, so ground transportation is your only choice for that leg. Once you are in Halifax, the walkability of the downtown core is one of its genuinely useful features. The historic properties, the Citadel, the waterfront boardwalk, and most of the central dining and nightlife sit within a compact grid that rewards walking. You can cover a meaningful amount of the peninsula on foot without planning around transit at all. That said, Halifax Transit operates a bus network across the metro, with major terminals at Mumford, Lacewood, Highfield, and Bridge Terminal serving different quadrants of the city. A single transit ticket runs around $3 as of this recording, which keeps occasional bus use affordable. Halifax also runs a ferry service across the harbor to Dartmouth, a short and inexpensive crossing that gives you access to the eastern side of the metro. Car rental is worth considering if you plan to explore beyond the peninsula. The South Shore, the Annapolis Valley, and Cape Breton all require a vehicle, and none of those destinations are reachable by any form of public transit. For a trip anchored entirely in downtown Halifax, though, a car is not strictly necessary. The compact core handles most visitor priorities on foot, with taxis or ride shares filling in the gaps for longer crossings. Where you sleep in Halifax shapes the entire trip, and with only 19 hotels in the downtown core, this is not a market where you can afford to browse casually. Book early, particularly if you're traveling in summer, when rooms tighten fast and rates reflect it. The downtown core and waterfront zone is the practical default for first-time visitors. Hotels here sit within walking distance of the Halifax Waterfront Boardwalk, Scotia Square, Casino Nova Scotia, and the Seaport Farmers Market. Budget tier rooms in this zone run around $116 Canadian dollars per night as of this recording, with mid-range properties landing closer to $164 Canadian dollars. Upscale properties on the waterfront push past $250 Canadian dollars per night. The concentration of hotels is the highest in the city, and the walkability is genuine. You can handle most of a full Halifax itinerary without stepping into a car. The trade-offs are predictable. Summer crowds push noise levels up. The price floor is the highest of any zone. And if you arrive with a rental car, expect to pay separately for parking. The South End and Point Pleasant area offers a quieter alternative. This is a residential zone anchored by Point Pleasant Park and the Halifax Public Gardens, both within easy reach on foot. Hotels here tend to skew toward mid-range pricing, and the atmosphere is noticeably calmer than the downtown strip. It suits couples or nature-oriented travelers well. The commercial core is accessible by a short walk or a quick bus ride, so the trade-off in convenience is minor rather than significant. Crossing the harbor to Dartmouth opens up a genuinely different value proposition. The Dartmouth side covers several distinct pockets, including downtown Dartmouth, Dartmouth Crossing, Burnside, Portland Estates, Portland Hills, and Wallace Heights. Nightly rates here tend to run below the downtown Halifax floor, and tourist density drops considerably. The Dartmouth Ferry makes the harbor crossing fast and scenic, typically in under 10 minutes, which keeps Halifax side landmarks accessible without paying Halifax side hotel prices. The main limitation is that most Halifax attractions still require transit or a car to reach, so travelers who want to move freely between zones should plan accordingly. The Bedford area and the broader Outer Halifax Regional Municipality represent a fourth option, but realistically only for road trip travelers who arrive with a vehicle and intend to keep using it. Distances to central Halifax are substantial. Hotel options are limited. Rates may be lower, but the convenience math only works if driving is already part of the plan. For most itineraries, downtown Halifax is the right call. Dartmouth is the smart move for travelers who want to keep accommodation costs in check. Don't mind a ferry commute and appreciate a less polished, more local vantage point on the same harbor. Halifax is organized around three things: its working waterfront, its maritime history, and its green space. Spend your time here, and you'll find those three categories account for the overwhelming majority of what makes the city worth visiting. The good news is that all three overlap geographically, which means a well-planned day here is efficient without feeling rushed. The Halifax waterfront is the obvious starting point. The boardwalk stretches just over 4 kilometers along the harbor, lined with historic buildings, boat tour operators, and the Seaport Farmers Market at its southern end. Walking it costs nothing. Boat tours vary, but most harbor excursions run in the range of $30 to $60 Canadian dollars per person currently. No advance booking is needed for the walk itself, and the waterfront rates among the highest reviewed landmarks in the city. which is consistent with how central it is to everything else. The Canadian Museum of Immigration at Pier 21 sits directly on the waterfront and is one of Canada's national museums. This is the pier where over 1 million immigrants first set foot in Canada, and the exhibits are built around those individual stories rather than abstract history. Budget 2 to 3 hours and planned admission costs in the range of 15 to 20 Canadian dollars per adult. It's walkable from every major downtown hotel zone, and it earns a 4.7 rating across more than 3,500 reviews, which is consistent performance at high volume. The Halifax Citadel National Historic Site sits on the ridge above downtown and is one of the most visited National Historic Sites in Atlantic Canada. It's a star-shaped British fortress with panoramic views over the harbor. Admission runs roughly 22 Canadian dollars per adult, with seasonal free admission programs sometimes available. Allow 2 hours. The walk up from the waterfront is short and steep, and the elevation gives you a visual orientation of the entire peninsula that's useful early in a visit. The Halifax Public Gardens are 16 acres of Victorian formal gardens, a short walk inland from the waterfront core. Entry is free. They're best visited in warmer months when the plantings are fully active, and they carry a 4.8 rating across nearly 8,000 reviews, making them one of the highest-rated single attractions in the city. Point Pleasant Park occupies 75 hectares at the southern tip of the Halifax Peninsula, roughly 2 to 3 kilometers south of the downtown hotel cluster. Entry is free, and the trail network suits hiking, cycling, and coastal walking. For outdoor travelers, combining Point Pleasant with the boardwalk and a harbor kayak rental builds a full active day without significant spend. The Halifax Seaport Farmers Market is among the oldest continuously operating farmers markets in North America. It's free to browse and anchors the southern end of the waterfront. Weekend mornings are the right time to visit for both vendor selection and atmosphere. The Dartmouth Ferry offers one of the better, low-cost harbor perspectives available anywhere in Atlantic Canada. The crossing connects Halifax and Dartmouth terminals and is priced as a standard transit fare, around 3 Canadian dollars each way at this time. It doubles as a sightseeing experience on the water without requiring a dedicated boat tour. Casino Nova Scotia sits on the waterfront and has no cover charge to enter. It functions as a practical evening option when the outdoor waterfront quiets down, with food and drink available alongside the gaming floor. Ratings are modest at 3.9, which is honest signal that it's a fallback rather than a primary draw. On the arts and culture side, the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia holds a 4.5 rating and sits close to the waterfront core. Halifax has a working creative scene with galleries and performance venues, including Alderney Landing across the harbor in Dartmouth. These aren't standalone reasons to visit, but they add real texture to a second or third day. The Scotia Festival of Music anchors late May and early June. The Halifax Jazz Festival runs through July. These are recurring annual events. And if your travel window overlaps, they're worth building around rather than treating as incidental. For history-focused visitors, pairing Pier 21 with the Citadel fills a complete and coherent day. Both deal with Halifax's identity as a strategic British colonial port and immigration gateway, and moving from one to the other creates a logical through line rather than a checklist. Start your morning at the Halifax Seaport Farmers Market, arriving early to get the best vendor selection and a proper breakfast before the crowds arrive. By mid-afternoon, walk the boardwalk north toward Pier 21 and spend 2 to 3 hours at the Canadian Museum of Immigration. This is the stretch of the visit where the city's depth as a historic port actually lands. End the evening at Casino Nova Scotia for a drink on the waterfront, or move to the restaurant and bar strip nearby as the harbor lights come on. The Bicycle Thief and the Five Fishermen both sit in this zone for a proper dinner, with the former rated 4.7 across more than 8,000 reviews at the higher end of the price range. For a long weekend, treat day one as a waterfront immersion. Seaport Farmers Market in the morning, the boardwalk and Pier 21 through the afternoon, waterfront dining in the evening. Day 2 shifts to elevated ground. Visit the Citadel in the morning for the panoramic city view and the garrison history, walk south through downtown to the public gardens in the afternoon, then continue to Point Pleasant Park before returning for dinner. The Old Triangle, Irish Ale House, or the Stubborn Goat Gastropub both work for a relaxed second evening meal at moderate prices. If you have a day 3, take the ferry to Dartmouth in the morning for a different angle on the harbor. Explore the Dartmouth side, including Alderney Landing, then return to Halifax for a final evening on the waterfront. The full circuit uses almost every major asset the city offers without repeating ground. Halifax's food identity starts in the water. Seafood dominates menus across every price tier, and the quality case is genuinely strong. Scallops here tend to be large, sweet, and nothing like the rubbery imports common elsewhere in North America. Mussels are reliably good and cheap enough that most kitchens treat them as an afterthought appetizer rather than a premium item. Lobster is the exception to the affordability argument. In restaurants, expect to pay a significant premium. The smarter move, if you want lobster, is to buy directly from a fisherman's market or from the informal street-side sellers who operate out of their vehicles during warmer months. Community lobster dinners run through churches and local groups from late spring into fall, and those offer the best combination of price and atmosphere. Beyond seafood, Halifax has a genuinely local food identity that most cities its size lack. The Halifax donair is the clearest example. It uses thinly sliced beef, a sweet, condensed milk and garlic sauce, diced tomatoes, and white onion. And it is distinct enough from its Middle Eastern cousins to count as its own thing entirely. You'll find donair meat used across menus in ways that reflect how deeply embedded it is locally. Donair pizza, donair poutine, donair egg rolls, even donair pogos, which are essentially corn dogs built around donair meat. Deep-fried pepperoni, served with honey mustard, is a bar snack that appears across the pub circuit and is worth trying once. Seafood chowder and fish and chips remain reliable budget anchors throughout the city. On price, an inexpensive single meal runs around 20 to 25 Canadian dollars at the moment. A mid-range sit-down dinner for 2 comes closer to 60 to 75 Canadian dollars. A local draft beer falls in the 5 to 7 Canadian dollars range. Fine dining at the upper end, particularly waterfront or heritage building venues, will push dinner for 2 with drinks comfortably past 120 to 150 Canadian dollars. The city's rating data shows that spending more does tend to buy better consistency. The expensive tier options cluster above 4.5 stars across thousands of reviews, which is a meaningful signal in a market this size. Geographic concentration matters here. The waterfront and the blocks immediately around Argyle Street and the Barrington Street corridor hold the highest density of dining, drinking, and everything in between. If you're staying downtown, the walk to good food is measured in minutes rather than kilometers. The North End has a separate food character, leaning more toward independent cafes, casual international spots, and neighborhood-scale restaurants. Dartmouth, across the harbor, is increasingly worth attention if you have time. The options there have improved substantially, and the ferry ride adds almost nothing to your transit time. Indian food has a noticeable footprint in Halifax relative to the city's size, with multiple operations drawing high ratings across a large number of reviews. The South Indian and North Indian split is both represented, which gives the dining landscape more range than a city this size typically produces. The cafe scene is functional throughout downtown and the North End, and for practical purposes, breakfast near most downtown hotels is straightforward. Tim Hortons locations are ubiquitous for cheap and fast, while independent breakfast and brunch options are concentrated along Argyle Street and the surrounding blocks. The pub culture deserves a specific note because it is structurally different from what you find in most Canadian cities. Halifax retained old licensing rules far longer than other markets. And the legacy is that pubs here were historically required to offer live entertainment or food alongside alcohol. That created a lasting pattern of genuine pub food at reasonable prices alongside real musical programming. Open mic nights with fiddles and bagpipes are not a performance for tourists. They are a functioning local tradition. The concentration of this along Argyle Street and the waterfront means a single evening on foot can move you through a meaningful range of atmosphere and price without planning anything in advance. For overall value, Halifax over-delivers at the mid-tier. The moderate price range covers gastropubs, strong Indian restaurants, and seafood-forward kitchens that all pull solid review numbers. Budget travelers eating chowder, donairs, and pub food will spend very little. The ceiling is real, but not dramatic. This is not a city where fine dining is the point. The seafood, the donair culture, and the pub circuit together form something more coherent than the sum of the parts. If any of these hotels, tours, or experiences caught your attention, I've put links to booking options and more in the description below. Budget-wise, Halifax lands in a comfortable middle range compared to other Canadian coastal cities. It is meaningfully cheaper than Vancouver and Victoria, roughly comparable to St. John or Charlottetown, and a touch more expensive than some smaller maritime towns. All figures below are in Canadian dollars currently. At the budget tier, expect to spend somewhere in the range of 70 to 90 Canadian dollars per day. That covers a hostel bed or the most affordable private rooms, which run around 110 to 125 Canadian dollars per night, plus 2 simple meals, a transit pass, and entry to 1 paid attraction. Food at this level runs 25 to 40 Canadian dollars per day if you lean on inexpensive sit-down spots, where a single meal costs around 22 Canadian dollars and supplement with grocery runs. Transit tickets are a flat 3 Canadian dollars per ride, so a couple of trips per day adds up to roughly 10 Canadian dollars. The moderate tier lands between 160 Canadian dollars and 215 per day. Hotels at this level run 150 to 175 Canadian dollars per night. A mid-range dinner for two comes in around 65 to 70 Canadian dollars, which is reasonable for a city with Halifax's seafood quality. Add lunch, coffee, and a beer or two. Local pints run around $5 to $6.50 Canadian. And daily food spend settles around 65 to 85 Canadian dollars. Activities and transport together add another 55 to 65 Canadian dollars. This is the tier where the city feels genuinely comfortable without requiring much discipline. The comfortable tier, meaning upscale hotels, restaurant meals twice a day, taxis rather than transit, and paid experiences daily, runs 380 to 460 Canadian dollars per day. Upscale hotels average 240 to 265 Canadian dollars per night. Food at this level can reach 140 to 175 Canadian dollars per day without much effort if you are working through the better waterfront restaurants. Transport via taxi adds up quickly. The meter starts around $4.70 Canadian and runs roughly $1.30 per kilometer, so cross-city rides land in the 12 to 18 Canadian dollars range each way. For context, a comparable moderate day in Vancouver would likely run 20 to 30% more, largely driven by accommodation. Halifax's upscale tier is also noticeably softer than Toronto or Montreal equivalents. The city does not have the density of luxury options that drives costs up in larger markets, which is either a limitation or an advantage depending on what you are after. For most visitors, the moderate tier covers the full Halifax experience without meaningful compromise. Halifax sits far enough north and close enough to the Atlantic that its weather runs on its own logic. The ocean moderates temperature swings, but also delivers persistent moisture. Fog is common across all seasons. Precipitation is spread fairly evenly through the year rather than concentrated in a distinct rainy season, so no month is fully dry and no month is fully brutal. That said, the differences between seasons are real enough to matter when you are planning. Winter runs from December through March and is genuinely cold. January and February are the core of it, with average highs around -1 degree Celsius, or about 30 degrees Fahrenheit, and lows dropping to around -10 Celsius, or about 14 degrees Fahrenheit. November is the year's wettest month, averaging around 159 millimeters, much of it as rain mixed with snow. The city functions normally through winter, but outdoor time is limited, and conditions on the waterfront can feel raw. Rates at accommodations are lower, crowds are thin, and the city takes on a quieter, more local character. Spring arrives gradually. March and April are transitional months where the temperature climbs, but rain remains frequent. May is where things shift. Highs reach around 14 degrees Celsius, or about 57 degrees Fahrenheit, and precipitation drops noticeably compared to the winter and early spring months, averaging around 110 millimeters over roughly 10 rain days. May is one of the 3 strongest months on the calendar. The Scotia Festival of Music anchors late May and early June, bringing chamber music and classical programming to several venues. The Halifax Urban Folk Festival takes place in late September into early October. Crowds have not yet reached summer levels, and prices are typically below peak. Summer, meaning July and August, represents the warmest window. Both months average highs of 23 degrees Celsius, or about 73 degrees Fahrenheit, with lows around 16 Celsius, or about 61 degrees Fahrenheit. This is the most comfortable weather for walking the waterfront and spending time outdoors, but it comes with full tourist pricing and the year's busiest crowds. The Halifax Jazz Festival takes place in early to mid-July, drawing significant audiences to outdoor and indoor venues across the city. June runs slightly cooler at around 20 Celsius, or about 68 degrees Fahrenheit, on average, with average precipitation around 90 millimeters. The Halifax Music Fest takes place at the Garrison Grounds in late June. Early fall is the other peak recommendation alongside May. September averages highs of around 21 Celsius, or about 70 degrees Fahrenheit, with lower precipitation than the summer months, and October stays pleasant at around 14 degrees Celsius, or about 57 degrees Fahrenheit, before the cool sets in. Foliage across Nova Scotia reaches its peak color in October. Crowds thin after Labor Day, and accommodation rates ease off from summer highs. September and October represent the strongest shoulder season value on Halifax's calendar. If September is when you go, and the data supports that as a strong choice, pack accordingly. Bring a mid-weight waterproof jacket that blocks wind off the water, since harbor breezes run cooler than inland temperatures suggest. Layers are practical. A light merino or fleece mid-layer handles the range between warm afternoons around 20 Celsius or about 68 degrees Fahrenheit, and evenings that can drop to 13 Celsius or about 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Waterproof walking shoes or ankle boots handle both rain and cobbled historic surfaces better than sneakers. A compact umbrella is worth the bag space. Leave the heavy winter coat at home, but do not arrive thinking it is high summer. Halifax's nightlife centers on the downtown waterfront and Argyle Street, where you'll find a walkable cluster of bars, live music venues, and pubs drawing a mix of locals and students from the city's several universities. The East Coast music scene is genuine here, and catching live Celtic, folk, or indie acts on a weeknight is entirely realistic. It is not a late-night city by major metropolis standards, but the density of options in a small area makes it easy to spend an evening without planning much in advance. Shopping breaks into a few distinct corridors. Spring Garden Road is the city's main retail strip, while Quinpool Road runs more eclectic with bikes, independent boutiques, and everyday local commerce. The Seaport Farmers Market near Pier 21 is worth knowing about specifically. It holds a claim as the oldest continually running farmers market in North America, operates Saturdays and Sundays year-round and is busiest on Saturdays when the full vendor roster is present. Local produce, prepared food, artwork and clothing all share the same floor. The arts presence is stronger than the city's size might suggest. The Canadian Museum of Immigration at Pier 21 anchors the cultural waterfront, and a working visual arts and gallery scene runs through the North End and downtown core. Theater, classical music, and university-driven programming fill out the calendar steadily across the year. On safety, Halifax is genuinely low risk by international standards. The North End and Gottingen Street area carry a rougher local reputation, but common sense applies, and the concern is relative. Two practical hazards are worth noting. Halifax drivers are unusually respectful of pedestrian crossings, which can create a false sense of security for walkers who assume all traffic has stopped. And in winter, the city's hilly layout combined with black ice is a real physical hazard. Watch the terrain, not just the traffic. For entry, U.S. citizens travel to Canada without a visa and without an ETA. A valid passport or Nexus card is sufficient for stays up to 180 days. The currency is the Canadian dollar, running roughly 0.73 to the US dollar at this time. Card acceptance is excellent across the city, including contactless tap at small vendors, but carry some cash for markets and street food. Tipping is expected. 15 to 20% at restaurants, $1 to $2 per drink at bars, and 10 to 15% for taxis. Power is standard North American 120 volts with Type A and B plugs, so US travelers need no adapter. Wi-Fi is reliable and free at most cafes, hotels, and public buildings. Fido offers 10 gigabytes of mobile data for around 40 Canadian dollars per month. Public Mobile runs 8 gigabytes for roughly 34 Canadian dollars, with online-only activation. Alternatively, an Airalo eSIM gives you 3 gigabytes for about 10 US dollars if you want something activated before you land. I hope this briefing saves you real time on the ground. Halifax earns its strongest marks from travelers who want a genuinely coastal Atlantic city without the scale or cost of a major metro. If you're drawn to maritime history, fresh seafood, walkable waterfronts, and a university town energy that keeps things lively without feeling manufactured, this destination fits well. Outdoor-focused visitors, road trippers using Halifax as a Nova Scotia base, and anyone curious about a distinct corner of Canadian culture will find it rewarding. Who should think twice? Travelers expecting big city nightlife, a wide international food scene, or fast connections to multiple onward destinations may find Halifax limiting. Winter visitors should also recalibrate expectations, since the Atlantic weather between November and March is genuinely harsh and cuts into what makes the city appealing. Timing matters more here than in larger cities. May brings mild weather and thin crowds. September and October offer arguably the best conditions overall, with comfortable temperatures, autumn color in the surrounding region, and a post-summer slowdown in pricing. Those 2 months represent the clearest window for most travelers. Budget for a city that runs slightly above the Canadian average on accommodation and dining. Plan at least 3 full days to cover the core without rushing. Treat the surrounding coastline as part of the destination rather than an optional add-on. That's our guide to Halifax, Canada. Everything mentioned is linked in the description below. If you're planning another trip, we've got more guides waiting for you. And if you haven't yet, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Thanks so much for watching.